What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the channel. I hope everyone's healthy and well. Today, we'll be reacting to why the rest of the world thinks Americans are brainwashed. Here we go. This was highly recommended. Let's jump right into the video. I myself, as an American, am not brainwashed. I don't know about the rest of the Americans out there around the world, but me, I'm good. I'm good.
There is some wild propaganda that Americans are taught and don't even realize it's propaganda.
Facts.
Now, I should preface this by stating that I am an American. I love my country. My family goes all the way back to Jamestown. My grandfather fought in World War II. I was born in Los Angeles. I went to university in Texas. I was raised singing the Star-Spangled Banner and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm about as American as it gets. Well, besides these guys. But I've also spent the last decade studying cults, dogma, and religious extremism, and thought control. And as someone who has lived in over a dozen countries and traveled to more than 35 of them, I've started noticing some extremely troubling forms of propaganda that Americans are taught from childhood. Things that people in free, developed democratic countries overseas find absolutely bizarre, and things that most Americans never question, because we've been marinating in it since birth. And look, every country has its own brand of propaganda. I'm not trying to pretend that America is uniquely evil here, but what makes American propaganda so effective is that most of us don't even realize it exists. We think that propaganda is something that happens in North Korea or Soviet bases, posters of dictators, and state-controlled media. We don't recognize it when it's sung at football games and printed on a bumper sticker. So here are 7 forms of propaganda.
And you see, that's exactly what I was talking about. So many countries have been warning us and making like message videos, literally personal message videos for Americans, literally explaining that we are blinded to these facts, these things that are clearly put in front of our faces in the world we live in, but we just don't see it because we're so used to it. But when other people travel here, they're like, yo, it's like a turn off, then they look at us like something's wrong because we shrugging our shoulders like, like you don't see nothing wrong. And then before you know it, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, the US is a completely different country. Something that we never would have imagined, expected, seen coming. But we were literally living in the moments of it switching up, progressing to that. We just didn't realize till it's too late. All right, so many countries have told us that. I keep telling people, man.
When it's sung at football games and printed on a bumper sticker. So here are 7 forms of propaganda that you probably didn't even realize that you grew up with if you're an American.
It's one of them educational ones, for real, for real. Holy Kool-Aid.
Number 1, US-centric education. American history is extraordinarily short. We are talking a few centuries compared to civilizations that span millennia. And yet, if you grew up in an American public school, you would think that the United States was the center of human history. Geography classes often aren't taught at all, and world history courses, when they are taught, are basically how does the rest of the planet relate to America?
I'm gonna keep it 100. The way we were taught in school, you would think that the United States of America is the rest of the planet. Like, we are all that exists. I'm serious. I promise. Things these people be saying.
Courses, when they are taught, are basically how does the rest of the planet relate to America? The Vietnam War is taught as a war for freedom. Westward expansion is framed as brave pioneers taming a wild frontier, not as the systematic displacement and genocide of indigenous peoples who've been living there for thousands of years. World War II, Americans swoop in and save the day, with little mention of the roughly 27 million Soviets who died on the Eastern Front doing the bulk of the fighting against Hitler.
I'm done pausing. Oh, this is one of those ones. Yeah, I'm not gonna keep pausing every second now. I'm not even I would get pissed off. I keep pausing that many times. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm just saying though. You see how we all the way at the bottom to this day. To this day, we got issues going on. And Trump, you wasn't on the front line. Only the U.S. was in the front line. What, bro? But soldiers literally coming from other countries lost their lives, but they wasn't on the front line. Everybody in the U.S. going back home though. Like blasphemy at its finest. And it blows my mind. And we sitting all the way at the bottom of the
of years. World War II, Americans swoop in and save the day, with little mention of the roughly 27 million Soviets who died on the Eastern Front doing the bulk of the fighting against Hitler. Now, compare that to how other countries teach history. In much of Europe, kids actually learn global history. They study African kingdoms, Asian dynasties, Middle Eastern contributions to science and mathematics. They learn about colonialism for what it actually is, not heroic adventure, but exploitation. When I talk to Americans who are traveling abroad for the first time, I'm often shocked at how little they know about the rest of the world. And that's not by accident. A nation which doesn't teach its citizens about the world produces citizens who don't question their own nation's role in it. Number 2, the Cold War binary. If you grew up in America anytime after 1950, you absorbed one of the most effective propaganda frameworks ever constructed. Communism equals evil, capitalism equals freedom. Full stop. No nuance, no discussion, just a clean binary where one side wears white hats and the other side is a cartoon villain. What they don't teach you is that during the Cold War, the United States overthrew democratically elected governments around the world simply because the governments leaned left. In 1953, the CIA helped orchestrate a coup against Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, because he nationalized Iran's oil industry. In 1954, the US toppled Guatemala's president, Arbenz, because his land reforms threatened the profits of United Fruit Company. In 1973, the CIA backed the overthrow of Chile's Salvador Allende, a democratically elected socialist, and replaced him with Augusto Pinochet, a brutal military dictator who tortured and murdered thousands. The Congo, Brazil, Indonesia, it's all the same playbook. America claimed to be defending democracy while systematically destroying it in order to exploit country after country. This all is recent history.
That's what I'm saying.
This binary,
you could do some work or be involved with the U.S., but just know, all that all that goody friendship, loyalty, out the window. It's not lasting forever. Snaking you for sure. Foot all in your back. Nah, I'm so serious. You're going to benefit for some time, and then eventually, when it's that time, the U.S. don't change their minds. They don't just think of another decision. If they got a plan to corrupt you, manipulate you, and get over you, extort you in some type of way, it's going to happen. It's going to happen or you're going to war. It's so unfair when you're dealing with the U.S., bro. Like, real talk.
Exploit country after country. This all is recent history, and this binary thinking is still alive and well. If you suggest universal healthcare in America, watch how quickly someone calls you a communist. Propose free public university education, something that dozens of thriving democracies already provide, and suddenly you're a Marxist. The Cold War ended over 30 years ago, but the propaganda framework it built is still alive and kicking. If you want to start breaking free from propaganda, one of the most effective and powerful things that you can do is to expose yourself to other cultures, other perspectives, and other languages. My dad was a language teacher and I grew up multilingual, and I can tell you firsthand that learning another language doesn't just teach you new words, it gives you an entirely different lens through which to view the world. Which is why I love today's sponsor, LingoPie.
Really?
LingoPie.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. You're a genius for that. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Okay.
Number 3. The land of the free myth. Americans are told from birth that the United States is the freest country on earth. It's in the songs, it's on the bumper stickers. It's baked into the nation's identity so deeply that questioning it feels almost heretical. But is it true? Well, let's look at the data. On the Reporters Without Borders Press Freedom Index, the US doesn't crack the top 50. It ranks 57th in the world, just below Sierra Leone.
Man.
On the Cato Institute's Human Freedom Index, and keep in mind, the Cato Institute is a libertarian think tank, not some leftist outfit, multiple countries outrank America in both personal and economic freedom. The United States incarcerates more people per capita than almost every other country on the planet. More than China, more than Russia, Iran, or North Korea. The land of the free locks up more of its own citizens than almost every authoritarian regime on Earth, and a disproportionate number of them are Black and Latino. This is not what freedom looks like. It is a system designed to warehouse people. But it goes deeper. A handful of corporations control vast swaths of American industry, from media to agriculture to healthcare and tech. These corporations aren't just influencing a little bit of government policy, they're writing the policy. Politicians respond to donors and lobbyists, not constituents. Hell, there was a Princeton study which actually found that the preferences of American voters have a near zero statistical impact on whether a policy gets passed or not. But the preferences of economic elites, big businesses, and organized interest groups are strongly correlated with what policies actually get passed into law. In other words, your politicians don't care what you want, unless you're a billionaire. Elections are largely bought and paid for.
I mean, well, realistically, our government isn't really supposed to care what the president wants either. The president really supposed to go through the whole judicial system and this and that. I don't know what happened over the years. That's why I call everybody. That's why I'm calling everybody a crook. Yeah, because like who's agreeing to these things? You know, Trump gotta wake up and he gotta pass these things through the people. Who is approving such things? So it got to a point where I was like, nah, I can't really, do that to the unknown with people. The 13, whoever's, however many people sitting in them chairs. I know it's an odd amount, but like I can't really judge them. I'm gonna just go ahead and say that this whole thing is rambunctious. Ain't no rules going on. I think he's just doing it himself now. No, before there was a process. The president wants something done. We gotta wait. We gotta see what other people, how we feel about it. Because we gotta live in this country. Now it's like whatever. This man is literally playing a video game. His fingertips. He can do what he wants, and can nobody say nothing. That is scary. That's what I be talking about. But like Americans don't realize that though. And when you really realize like you ain't got no control, no type of power, you can just do what he wants. I mean, like, how is that safe for you? What does that mean for you? I don't know, So,
with what policies actually get passed into law. In other words, your politicians don't care what you want, unless you're a billionaire.
No.
Elections are largely bought and paid for. Gerrymandering carves up districts so that the politicians can choose their voters rather than the other way around like it should be in a free democracy. Voter suppression laws target communities least likely to vote for the people in power, and the two-party system has become a self-reinforcing trap that incentivizes extremism over representation. We are taught, and this is hardcore propaganda, that America's electoral system...
Wait, I kind of like how he did that, though. Like, if you really read it between the lines, is he basically trying to say, wait a minute.
See, voter suppression laws target communities least likely to vote for the people in power, and the two-party system has become a self-reinforcing trap that incentivizes extremism over representation.
Extremism over representation, like basically between Democratic and Republican parties, the hype built up between both parties. Everybody has to vote and go for this party or that party. Don't nobody even think to mention the other parties out there, bro. Or the candidates or nothing. You ask who? You didn't know they was running? No. All you worried about is Democratic and Republican. So you didn't even think to hear out the other people and see what they got to say and how can they make this world better. Sometimes we got underrated people that might, come about the dark and just take the charts, you know what I'm saying, to become president. All the way at the bottom, and now they up top. But don't nobody got no hope and no faith like that. Everybody want to meet ride and go to what's popular and what's known. And that's how you get caught up in this situation. For real.
System has become a self-reinforcing trap that incentivizes extremism.
I noticed this since I was in like middle school. I used to talk to my world study teachers about it all the time since middle school. I should have been making these videos. It's about this since middle school. I've been saying this.
And the two-party system has become a self-reinforcing trap that incentivizes extremism over representation. We are taught, and this is hardcore propaganda, that America's electoral system is the best. Well, except when our guy loses, of course. But there is a much better electoral system. It is called ranked choice voting.
Ah.
And the only people who prefer our current system over ranked choice are those who are financially incentivized against freedom and democracy. Here's how it works. With ranked choice, instead of picking just one candidate and hoping for the best, you rank out your preferences with your top choice at the top and your least choice at the bottom. If no one wins a majority, the candidate with the fewest votes gets eliminated, and the people who voted for them have those votes redistributed to their second choice. You keep going until someone actually has majority support. It rewards candidates who appeal broadly rather than those who energize the extremes.
Right.
It reduces what's known as the spoiler effect and creates a better reflection of what voters actually want. There are already several US cities and states which have already adopted ranked choice voting, and it's the norm in countries like Australia and Ireland. But most Americans have never even heard of it because the two parties currently in power have zero incentive to tell you about the system that would threaten their grip, and they have every incentive to criticize it.
You should run aggressively against ranked choice voting. It is a big...
Number 4. America's...
Threaten their grip. Man, if you're gonna win, you're gonna win. Wait. We gotta make this fair for everyone. We got people, like I just said, around the world meat riding. They go with whatever's popular. They don't know about the other parties or candidates running. They don't know. They just know Democratic and Republican. Like, it gotta be fair. You know, this gives people a chance. You gotta read up on all the people. You know, I understand if you don't care about this person at all, at least fill in one of the bubbles. Make them your third or your fourth. It helps. It helps. I keep telling people out here, you know, I see the toddler vote. I see the toddler vote this year. I see the toddler vote.
You should run aggressively against ranked choice voting. It is a big...
Number 4. America's stupidly big military budget. The US spends...
Yeah. You just showed us mad Carfax. Nothing but proof. The US at the bottom of the charts. Now watch. The only thing we got to show for is how much money we got. Oh my God. You know, my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm getting tired of that, man. All the money in the world. Highest military defense budget. Why my head look like that? It's like an ice cream cone. Like, highest military defense budget in the world. And still can't get out in no predicaments and conflicts. We gotta call other people to help us. That money can't help us? Man. You know, it's all we got to show for us how much money we got. That's it. That's so sad, man. It
is a big...
Number 4. America's stupidly big military budget. The US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. Let that sink in. More than China, Russia, the UK, Saudi Arabia, Germany, France, Japan, South Korea, and Australia put together. Now, Americans are taught that this spending is about protecting freedom and defending the free world. And sure, a reasonable national defense is necessary. But the vast majority of this budget doesn't go to defense. It funds over 750 military bases in at least 80 countries. It funds interventions, regime changes, drone programs, and the maintenance of a global military empire. Meanwhile, American roads are crumbling. Bridges are collapsing. The healthcare system bankrupts families. Teachers buy their own classroom supplies. Student debt has surpassed
Nah, facts. The teachers do buy everything for the class. How dare they? That's messed up. At that point, go run your own business, your own educational business, your own school, and have all that money come into you at that point since you invested into it. You can't even get something out your school, out of the district. Man, that's horrible. That's horrible. We are investing into the wrong things. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but we got money to invest in the other things and still be the number one. And there's mad videos out there on the internet of them wasting our tax dollars too. So I'm not on, I understand he said 80 bases and this and that, but it's not all going to a good cause. Can we all agree? Even my people in the military, can we not agree? Man, you could be a chief, you could be a sergeant, you could be a major. It could be a colonel. You can be a lieutenant. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it 100. Sometimes y'all be having fun. Sometimes y'all be wilding. Y'all be in the sky letting rounds go. On the ground letting rounds go. You know, it's like that. I know. It's documented all over social media. I mean, if you type it in right now, it's gonna come up. Other countries, you don't really see that too much. But we be blowing the money for real, for real. This is supposed to be protecting us. But you on base letting it loose. Pointing at nothing but the sky. My gosh. And it's just our money. It's crazy.
It funds interventions, regime.
It's their money too. It's literally their money too, bro. You in the military and it's getting taken out your taxes. You wasting your money as well. Save the bullets for war. You know, it's like, bro, I don't...
50 military bases in at least 80 countries. It funds interventions, regime changes, drone programs, and the maintenance of a global military empire. Meanwhile, American roads are crumbling. Bridges are collapsing. The healthcare system bankrupts families. Teachers buy their own classroom supplies. Student debt has surpassed $1.7 trillion, and millions of Americans can't afford basic prescriptions. Other countries, meanwhile, invest their resources differently. Universal healthcare, free or affordable higher education, robust public transit, paid parental leave, affordable childcare, and as a result, their citizens are measurably healthier, better educated, less stressed, and by many metrics, happier. This isn't speculative, it's what the data consistently shows.
Yes,
Historians
indeed.
have a term for what happens when an empire pours its resources into military expansion while its domestic foundations rot. Imperial overstretch. And it's how empires collapse. The Romans did it, the British did it, the Soviets did it, and if you look at the trajectory, America...
Hey, shout out to Britain. No facts. Shout out to Britain. It did happen. And the way y'all was able to rebuild and come back from that was tremendous. There's a lot of countries that was able to rebuild and come back. A lot. I could go down the list right now. And they've been those countries, you know, trying to help us, you know, make videos and deliver messages specifically to America, the Americans, the citizens of this country, warning us about the times and the things we're used to, you know? It's dangerous.
Collapse. The Romans did it, the British did it, the Soviets did it, and if you look at the trajectory, America is running headfirst over the same cliff. Number 5, the Pledge of Allegiance.
We honestly could have added Germany. Germany could have been added in that list too, right, ladies and gentlemen? Haven't they done a fine job at coming back from their history and what has happened throughout their times and rebuilding and everything? Like, yeah, straight up. I think we could add Germany in that list as well too. I'm not discrediting him and his work, his video, or his knowledge in any type of way. I'm not. Because there are several other countries that, you know, look at all these bulls. There's other countries. Several other countries.
Headfirst over the same cliff. Number 5, the Pledge of Allegiance. Having children stand up every single morning, place their hands over their heart, face a flag, and recite a loyalty oath in unison is, by any outside standard, one of the creepiest things about America. I'm not saying this to be edgy. When you describe this practice to people from other democracies, their jaws hit the floor. They associate it with the kind of thing that you would see authoritarian regimes do, not in a country that calls itself the leader of the free world. Because think about what the pledge actually is. It is a feudal fealty oath. It is a declaration of personal loyalty to a state. Now, I understand why elected officials and military personnel swear oaths of service. That makes sense.
Oh my gosh. I've been living in the United States my whole life and I didn't know that. I thought it was to the country. It's to the state you're in? I thought it was for like the whole country. Wait, it's for specifically the state you are in? So I'm Pledge of Allegiancing to the state I'm in? Like, I'm holding it down for New Jersey? I gotta go back a little bit. Wait a minute.
The oath. It is a declaration of personal loyalty to a state. Now,
oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I thought it was the country. I thought it was to the country. It's wait. It's because he didn't have an S at the end, so he just meant state. Like, I'm posted in New Jersey. I pledge of allegiance, basically, to the state of New Jersey. Wait, that's throwing me off. That's actually throwing me off right now. Wait, because why nobody ever explained that to us? Yet again, we ain't never really asked no questions or even like think about this type of stuff. We just like let's just, we got to do it every morning. But sometimes, kids was lazy. They didn't want to stand up and do it. Teachers used to make a big deal, this and that. Send them to the office, lunch detention, no reset, all type of stuff. Like, man, wow. Like, once you get to take it away, recess and all that, I'm like, that's not fair now. I'm just glad they never did it to me. For real, there was definitely times where I was sleeping at that desk. Homeroom, we got about 10 more minutes. I'm knocked. I'm not doing it purposely, but I'm just knocked, And I'm glad they didn't kick me out. And I wake up, oh, my bad. Did I miss the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm sorry. I'm not doing it on purpose. Because in my head, I always had it in the back of my mind as a kid, like, man, we doing this for the soldiers, for real. Like, if you don't want to do it, bro, if you go complain, like, just do it for the soldiers then. That's fine. That's holding it down for you right now, You a little kid. You a little boy. You know what I'm saying? What can you do? How can you protect us? How can you protect yourself? Like, that's the way I used to think of it as a kid. I'm wrong?
The leader of the free world. Because think about what the pledge actually is. It is a feudal fealty oath. It is a declaration of personal loyalty to a state. Now, I understand why elected officials and military personnel swear oaths of service. That makes sense. They're accepting a position of public responsibility. But requiring a 6-year-old to pledge allegiance to a flag before they can even spell allegiance? It's brainwashing. Like, you realize the founding fathers would be horrified by this, right? These were men who...
we were lied to about them as well, though. We know they'd be disappointed. Gosh.
Realize the founding fathers would be horrified by this, right? These were men who literally threw off the yoke of another red, white, and blue flag when it represented tyranny. They understood and wrote extensively about the fact that it is the duty of every free person to question authority and resist tyranny, not just pledge blind loyalty to a piece of cloth. The entire American experiment was built on the idea that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed, and that when a government fails its people, those people have the right and the obligation to challenge it. This is the entire reasoning behind the Second Amendment. Creating mindless, loyal zombies out of children is the exact opposite of what the founders fought for, and yet suggests that we stop doing this in our children's schools and watch how fast you get called un-American. Number 6, the myth that America...
If you don't do it in public or at sporting events and stuff, people do look at you. Oh, up and down sizing you up. And I bet you they don't even know the reason they doing it.
In schools and watch how fast you get called un-American. Number 6, the myth that America was founded as a Christian nation. If you've ever driven through the American South...
There goes the lies. You see? I didn't just say that. Lies about the founding fathers.
Or the myth that America was founded as a Christian nation. If you've ever driven through the American South, or honestly, large parts of the Midwest and rural America, you've probably seen billboards saying things like, hell is real, abortion is murder, and Jesus saves. They line the highways like wallpaper, so pervasive that most people stop noticing them. Religious messaging in America is so saturated into the culture that it becomes invisible, which is exactly what makes it so effective. But here's what a lot of Americans don't know. The United States was never a Christian nation. The founders were explicit about this. The Constitution makes zero mention of Christianity or Jesus. The First Amendment enshrines the separation of church and state. The Treaty of Tripoli, unanimously ratified by the Senate in 1797 and signed by President John Adams, states in very plain language that the government of the United States is not, in any sense, founded on the Christian religion. That is not my interpretation. That is a legally binding document from the founding generation. So, where did the Christian nation myth come from? Well, in keeping with the rest of this video, propaganda. Cold War propaganda to be specific. Under God was added to the Pledge of Allegiance in 1954. In God We Trust was added to the paper currency in 1957, and adopted as the national motto the year before. Our original motto, E Pluribus Unum, is more about plurality. Out of many, one. Both of these actions were deliberate moves to contrast the United States against godless communism. They weren't ancient traditions passed down by the founders. They're marketing decisions which were made by politicians in the 1950s. And now, barely 70 years later, millions of Americans will swear on a stack of Bibles that this country was founded as a Christian nation, and that anyone who says otherwise is attacking their heritage. The conflation of patriotism with Christianity is itself a product of propaganda, and it's one of the most dangerous because it means that questioning religion in America isn't just seen as blasphemy, it's treason. Number 7, American exceptionalism. This one is huge. The one that ties all the rest of it together. American exceptionalism isn't just this belief that America is different. It's a belief that America is inherently superior, better, divinely favored, the greatest country that God ever put on this earth. And it functions not just as a belief, but as a social enforcement mechanism. Because in America, criticism of the country is treated as betrayal. Point out that other nations have better healthcare outcomes, and you're told, well, why don't you just move there? Suggest that the military budget is bloated, and it is bloated, and suddenly you hate our troops. If you point out that Americans rank poorly on education, press freedom, or infant mortality compared to other developed countries, and you're suddenly ungrateful. Even liberals and progressives who critique America specifically because they want to improve it get branded as unpatriotic. Do you see how backwards that is? The messaging is clear. You can love America or you can criticize it.
I'm mixing both together. A true love is criticism. As long as there's action behind it. You know, how can we grow? How can we fix this? Otherwise, then it's just criticism. but I mean, I understand. I see what he's saying.
Backwards that is. The messaging is clear. You can love America or you can criticize it.
It doesn't make sense.
You can't do both. But
yeah. If I list out a few issues with my country right now and how another country does it better, somebody's gonna and they're gonna get to defending their country because they live in this country. They live in this country. And you know, we're actually better. And guess what? And not for nothing, like when I be having conversations with people out in public, they really be talking to me like I'm really some little kid. And I think it's funny though, because I got a baby face, but I just be looking at them like this. I just be listening. And like, and not for nothing, sweetie. They come to our country because it's better. Don't let them fool you. I'll be wanting to like laugh in their face out loud, but I don't be disrespectful. I ain't doing that. I'll be like, boy, these people really brainwashed for real. And not for nothing. Oh my gosh, just be getting into random conversations with people at the most random places like Walmart, bro.
Prove it.
Let me
get
leave.
Branded as unpatriotic. Do you see how backwards that is? The messaging is clear. You can love America or you can criticize it. You can't do both. But in most healthy democracies, critique is understood as a form of patriotism. Wanting your country to live up to its own ideals isn't betrayal. It is the highest form of civic engagement.
Facts.
The pressure to never question America, to treat any criticism as an attack, to reflexively defend the status quo no matter how messed up it is because admitting a problem feels like admitting defeat.
Admitting defeat and, you know, coming disrespectful, that's how people would feel. Or you're judging and this and that. No. Do you want a yes man? How many people here have friends that are just yes men? And I don't see how you want them around, honestly, unless you just like people agreeing with you 24/7. You just know for a fact they're going to agree with you. That's so boring. I can't live a life like that. Hit me with something, you know, disagree with me. Tell me something I'm not even thinking about, you know? Please. Show me that my ego, you know, is showing right now, or my ignorance. Stuff like that. Don't just have me thinking that I'm right 24/7. And that's the problem with a lot of Americans. And I call that soft-hearted, soft-minded. You being soft. It's some showman. For real. You know, these little words hurting your feelings and everything, it don't make no sense. But we really just keeping it real. So now we are aware of the issues. Let's fix it now. That way we can laugh about them later on. Not be ignorant. And every time the situation or somebody brings it up and goes against what you say, now you gotta stand front line and feel like you gotta defend your country and your president and this and that and everything. The ignorance. Go to another country. People are glad to have these conversations. Well, how can we actually help the country then? You know, people will straight up walk up to their world leaders and have these conversations or throw it out into the air so they can hear it. And that world leader will have a conversation or they will acknowledge it or, fix it, a speech and, acknowledge the person they heard out in the public. In the US, it's more so like a bash or they will ignore you, or if you speak against, Secret Service is getting on your behind. They're already right there. Like, in prison, so stop. And fined. Straight up, like it get that bad.
The status quo, no matter how messed up it is, because admitting a problem feels like admitting defeat. That social pressure is itself one of the most effective forms of propaganda there is, because it doesn't require a government agency or state-run media outlets. It's enforced by your neighbors and your coworkers, your family, and your own internalized guilt. Like I said at the beginning, I don't hate America. I want it to be better. And if that makes me un-American in your eyes, then, well, I think I kind of proved my point. It is the civic duty of every citizen to question what we've been taught, to explore outside the bubble, whether that's through reading, traveling, or learning other languages, using LingoPie, of course, and exposing ourselves to the perspectives that challenge our own assumptions. It's our duty to push back against propaganda and to exercise the very First Amendment rights that we claim to value. Because things don't have to be like this. They can be better. But we have to first recognize the propaganda and be honest with ourselves in order to get there. If you
these people been learning the propaganda.
guys enjoyed this video, please smash that like button.
Excellent video, man. This was a great, amazing video. This is my first time watching this video. Checking out your channel. But we'll definitely be back. 100%. Original video link will be down below in the description. We've been learning about this propaganda our whole life, so for these people to go with it for so long, 40, 50 years old, they find out it's been a lie, or this or that is not right about their country, or, things that they were strongly sure about. They're going to go against what you say, it's going to hurt their hearts, and they're going to take it into offense. They will. Nobody's trying to hear that. Nobody wants to, think their whole lives that they were right and what they, were taught in school and in the real world was correct. They've been gaining and receiving all this knowledge and, they're in their 40s and stuff. Now they're adults and they're so smart and so wise and everything. But then when you literally correct them on, their false knowledge and some of the things that they truly don't understand as clearly, just trying to help them a little bit, just tweak their wisdom a little bit, they go off on you. Now you're going against them. My goodness, now you're brainwashed. They tell you go to the country then, or why don't you go run for president? I don't understand. And it's not all Americans, because I've had more conversations with Americans about things that we need to change. A lot of people are waking up, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me. Oh, believe me. We're living in those times. We are living in those times, but let's just see where it goes, because we got the new generations, next generation, then the next generation, then the next generation. So they got to be able to catch on and keep up as well, but they're going to be taught everything that we was taught in the beginning, because you know why? All that money is going to our defense. It's not going to go to the schooling system or anything. Why? To the US, it's not damaged. So the US is not corrupt. So they're not going to feel the need to fix or change anything. And frankly, the US doesn't change things until they actually see proof that it's not working, So why haven't we made any changes to our education system? I mean, we've been proven so many times that we've been false throughout history. We've been tweaking things, or maybe this wasn't 100% accurate. Maybe it was 65, 70% accurate. Maybe you only told half the story. Or what about the cruel, wicked things our country has done this and that? You're only going to say what other countries have done to us, but make us seem so great as if the whole world was running to the United States of America sometime in history. The whole world, huh? Was counting on us. Oh my gosh. Like, come on. And then eventually those kids is going to wake up and question all this stuff they learned. Just like how we are today as adults. Stay safe. I love you all so much. Share your honest thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Please feel free to follow my Kick in Twitch in the description for the live streams. And subscribe to all my other YouTube channels as well in the description. I love you all so much. Stay safe. I'm not sweating or nothing. I know a lot of people be thinking I'm sweating. I'm hot overheat. I'm good. Strac is good. It's just the lights. I think it's just the lights reflecting on my skin, and it literally makes it look like I'm sweating, but I'm not. But I'm not. Stay safe, and I hope to catch you all in the next reaction video. Great video, by the way. Great video.